And the nominations for the British Film Critic Best Place to give us an informed and informative and amusing overview of the Oscars for this year is the nominees are Van Connor, Connor Van, and Van Connor. And Van Connor, the winner, joins us now. Good morning, Van, and thanks for doing this for us absolutely live.
You like me. You really like me, as the famous speech goes, Mr. Ross. Thank you for having me on, as always. Good. And another year, another round of Oscars. It's good to be back.
Great to have you on the show again. Of course, we normally do it Friday together, doing the kind of Freeview film recommendations for the weekend. Some big movies in the running, of course. I think a few have got a lot of nominations, a lot of energy, a lot of heat around, as they say, the Netflix film, The Power of the Dog. What are your thoughts on that one? I've seen it once. It's a remarkable film, the kind of film that I'd probably only want to see once.
You know what, you hit the nail right on the head there. You'd only want to see it once, which kind of does, in one sense, make it the perfect Oscar movie, because Oscar movies do tend to be those movies that you watch that one year that they're up for the Oscar.
Like The English Patient.
And you never see... The English Patient is a good example. The Artist is another one. How many people do you know have seen The Artist twice?
Well, I have, I must confess, but I'm a silent movie addict, so, but I take your point. They've got to, again, I think sometimes as well, without being rude about the Academy Award members, they vote for films that make them feel better about themselves. You know, okay, we all love Fast and the Furious 7, but I'm going to vote for The Artist, or I'm going to vote for The English Patient, which nobody ever rolls out of the pub and gets indoors with a takeaway picture and says, let's stick on The English Patient. Just doesn't happen, does it?
It doesn't, and you can make, but there is that logical argument, like you said, they're out of touch, but there is the other flip side of that coin, which is they couldn't be too in touch or it wouldn't make a whole heap of sense, because if you gave Twitter and the general public a say in the matter, Spider-Man No Way Home would be up for every Oscar going, which wouldn't make a whole heap of sense, although you could possibly make an argument that it deserves it in context, but still, that's neither here nor there. The Oscars have started anyway. They're about 45 minutes in. We've had the big Beyonce opener. She's done the song from King Richard. I forget the name offhand, but she's done it from a tennis court in Compton. So it's been quite a big open, bringing the house down, as it were. I finally got to see that movie last night for the very first time, because Will Smith is up for Best Actor, and he's heavily favoured to be the winner this time.
We were thinking about that last week, actually, and I was saying that I think he should have got it for Michael Mann's Ali. And maybe, and sometimes the Academy says we dropped a clanger last time around. We'll kind of give it to him. Maybe when he, for this, but he's great. I've seen this. He's great in it, but I think it's not the performance Ali was. But then again, you can't go back in time and kind of right that wrong.
Well, it's the Scorsese thing, isn't it? It's like Scorsese getting the Oscar for The Departed. It was just known at the time. It was like he was in the ether. This is not the movie he deserves to win the Oscar for, but we kind of owe him. Yeah. This is his standard great, quality barrier. It's not his best one, but it's his standard. Let's just give it him for this one, and it kind of covers it. And you get the impression they're setting Will Smith up for that one with King Richard.
Let me go through some of the others very quickly. The Best Picture nominees. Dune, which is only part one of Dune, is up for 10 Oscars, I think. I mean, I can't honestly see that getting Best Picture, because it's the first of a two-parter.
Well, first of all, it's up for 11, and it's won 2 already. Because I think it's the second favourite after the Power of the Dog. Now, the Power of the Dog is up for 12. Dune is the runner-up with 11. It has so far won Best Cinematography and Best Sound in the last 40 minutes. And
we've also got West Side Story, which I was amazed to learn, actually didn't do well at the box office. That's up for 7 Oscars, I think, including Best Picture and Best Director. I mean, it's a reworking, admittedly, but a great film, I thought. Beautiful film to look at.
Very solid film, and absolutely what you would expect of Steven Spielberg remakes West Side Story, because it's clearly been made by someone of the age that Spielberg, is, as in, it seems to have been catered to that crowd as well. You look at the box office receipts on West Side Story, for instance, and it does strike you as a film that should have been delayed until after COVID had settled more, when older audiences were returning to cinemas, because that was its bread and butter. Now, it's opened on Disney Plus in the past week, which does seem to be the ideal place for it at this moment in time, because, like I say, those older audiences are not going back to multiplexes. Those box office receipts are drastically down on what they should be, especially for that property, for that director. It's got its first Oscar, incidentally. It has won Best Supporting Actress. That was the first award out the gate. So Ariana DeBose has won Best Supporting Actress for that. It's surrounded by controversy as well because of Rachel Ziegler, young actress from it, despite the fact that the film is up for Best Picture, is up for so many awards, and yet its star was not invited to the Oscars. This was a minor controversy during the week that has very hastily been dealt with, and she now gets to present an award as well, which is very in keeping with the general hurry and deal with this tone of this year's ceremony. I mean, looking at the hosting situation, for instance, we have hosts this time for the first time in, I think, 4 years And before you pat them on the back too hard for having the second and third, black female hosts of the Academy Awards, we have 3 hosts this year, Amy Schumer, Wanda Sykes and Regina Hall. Before you give them too many props for having the second and third host, black female hosts of the Oscars, it's worth noting we are 94 years into this. And Whoopi Goldberg was, a couple of decades ago now?
And we've got 20 seconds each, so let's, I say the other nominees for Best Picture: Belfast, Coda, King Richard we mentioned, Don't Look Up and Nightmare Alley. The film I'd like to see win it is Nightmare Alley. I love that movie. Have you got a film you think should win it? But whether it wins it or not, we're not holding you to it. What's your best of those contenders for the Best Picture Oscar?
In my personal, I think it deserves it category. It's between Dune and Nightmare Alley. I think both of those are tremendous. I don't think Nightmare Alley is a strong Shape of Water, but I think it's a really, really good, it's Del Toro's Prestige.
Brilliant stuff from Van Connor. Of course, we expect no less from the man. He'll be dropping it intermittently throughout the programme this morning, and the big roundup happens after 4 a.m. It's the Oscars, it's talkSPORT, it's talkRADIO. Up next, though, talking rugby and golf, Russ Hargreaves, our main man. Well, my friends, it's meant to be an award ceremony. It's meant to be backslapping and congratulations, and it's meant to be all fun, friendship and frolics over there in Hollywood, in La La Land. Not so much. Maybe we should have been playing Survivor's Eye of the Tiger, given what's occurred on the stage at the Oscars, with more, and a brilliant end to this story, with more. Here he is, our main man when it comes to all matters movie-related, my partner in radio crime when it comes to the Oscars, turning into the Rosscars. It's Van Connor. Van, I mean, you were watching at the beginning. Tell us what's unfolded, please. We had a hint about it in the news from Daisy. What did we witness? What did you witness watching the Oscars?
In the moment, we did not know what was going on. Chris Rock was up on stage. He was presenting the sort of queuing up the award for best documentary, and going through the nominees. And he was doing his monologue. He was doing his jokes. He made reference to Jada Pinkett Smith and her freshly shaven head, and how she I think called to mind G.I. Jane 2. And within a few moments, Will Smith had stormed the stage. I can only describe it as pimp slapped him, and then calmly. Well, it was weird. He sort of Wild West strutted back off stage.
And I saw just the strike first, and I thought it was a kind of publicity setup. I hadn't heard what Chris Rock said, but then also there was a kind of a heckle from the audience by was to say, "Keep my wife's name out of your expletive deleted mouth."
Yeah, we got it on the Sky feed here. I'm told that it was edited out in the ABC broadcast in the US, and it's gone out only on like the Murdoch networks everywhere else. I think it's broadcast by Disney in the US.
And I do think as well, one of the reasons maybe Will Smith took it so badly was on his wife's behalf was, I think her head is shaven because she's also suffering from alopecia, which is a terrible condition, and of course nothing she can do anything about. It's not for a role; it's because she's suffering from a medical condition.
Exactly. There is that. There's also, I think, to be honest with you, having watched the ceremony, there have been a couple of moments here. One in particular with Regina Hall earlier. There was a sort of a kind of an affectionate jab at his person, at their relationship that you think with the pressure of the night could perhaps be a bit triggering. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear something like that. But it did. And then there was Sean Combs, better known as P. Diddy or Puff Daddy to you and I, who had the unenviable position of having to walk out after the cutaway, and announce that Questlove had, effectively won this award for Summer of Soul, for the documentary Summer of Soul, which is a groundbreaking documentary in and of itself, and absolutely brilliant. And it was a great moment, and you did feel like it really, really robbed what should have been quite a powerful moment. You then, of course, get to the big crescendo, which is the moment of Best Actor. And going into it in that moment, this was a 2-horse race between Benedict Cumberbatch for The Power of the Dog and Will Smith for King Richard. And the Will Smith role, like we said earlier, had that Martin Scorsese effect going for it with, is this the one he has to have because we owe him at this stage? There was then the concern, is this going to be another thing like back in the early 2000s when Russell Crowe was clearly going to win, but then there was an incident in the press and all of a sudden Denzel was the front runner? And nobody knew. This was the thing going into it. We had that moment just before they announced Best Actor where you felt like the Joker in The Dark Knight going, and here we go. You just didn't know which way it was going to swing. And it did go Will Smith's way. So we have what might now go down in history as one of the most profoundly meaningful in the moment ever Oscar speeches. This thing was, give it to Will Smith. He pulled it off. It was an apology. It had a narrative, a crescendo, everything. He pulled off that moment. It's a very emotional, very moving speech. It had a couple of issues in terms of, let's just say, a couple of awkwardly problematic things that he said about protective roles and parentage and defense and things like that I'm sure are going to get picked apart in great detail in the press in days to come. But it was in the moment a very powerful, very moving, almost Rocky-like moment.
I've got another film vehicle coming up for Chris Rock. He could remake the 1924 silent classic starring Lon Chaney called He Who Gets Slapped. Surely that's got to be worth a remake, do we think? Now, let's ask you, so Will Smith gets Best Actor. What are the other big headlines from the Oscars this time around? Any surprises? Any disappointments for you, Van?
Well, I should point out that we're recording this as the next awards are being announced. So I don't know who's won Best Actress yet, or what's won Best Picture. So you have to give me a moment as we catch up.
Of course, yeah, we're keeping an eye on it as well here, and things have obviously been slightly disrupted, delayed, possibly. It always overruns or underruns. It's never a precise science live TV. Unlike, of course, professional live radio. He lied unconvincingly. So what have we got so far as the headlines?
So the big headlines outside of Will Smith for actor and leading role, we have Best Original Screenplay. We have Billie Eilish has won for No Time to Die for Best Original Song. Jane Campion has taken home the award for directing, which seems to be the only really high-profile one that's taken so far. We have Summer of Soul, as I say. Questlove's documentary has won for Best Documentary. Dune has been surprisingly effective so far. It's taken away film editing, amongst many others. We'll get to them in the list.
Jane Campion, of course, directed The Power of the Dog, which has been widely promoted with, I think, was it 12 nominations you were saying earlier on?
12 nominations. It was the leader of the pack, and he was expected to go home. But early on, it seemed that Dune was sweeping the way. I mean, Dune started out by taking the technicals like visual effects and production design, and it seemed like Dune was either taking all the technicals, but it was kind of racking up the numbers in favour of. Right. Unless Power of the Dog got in there early and started taking it with the performances from the supporting categories and the screenplay categories, it clearly wasn't going to be the front runner, and now it's obviously not. In terms of things that seem to be actually taking home awards, Dune and Coda seem to be tied at present.
And Coda's an interesting film in that it's largely about people who are hearing impaired. And it stars a woman who I think won an Oscar back in the day for Children of a Lesser God, and she was playing a deaf person in that, and is of course herself profoundly deaf.
Marlee Matlin, yes. By the way, we have news. Jessica Chastain has won Best Actress for her role in The Eyes of Tammy Faye, which is, to be really honest, not a win I saw coming. I had Kristen Stewart for that.
And Tammy Faye, is that about the evangelist's wife, or evangelist herself, televangelist who was guilty, they said, of kind of ripping off people who believed in them and contributed to the church?
Absolutely is. It's available now on streaming as of this week, I think, and it's a quirky one. It's going for some of that I, Tonya appeal. It also co-stars Andrew Garfield. So I'm getting more muddled tonight. Andrew Garfield, who of course was nominated for Best Actor this year for Tick Tick Boom, which he missed out on to Will Smith, but he wasn't nominated for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, as Jessica Chastain was. It's a makeup effects heavy one, which put her in line with Nicole Kidman for the Best Actress in that category. You know, we always love to have one or two performers every year under the makeup effects. Yep. This year it fell to both Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball and Jessica Chastain as Tammy Faye.
Because Charlize Theron won as the female serial killer Eileen Wuornos, didn't she? That was basically a makeup job. Although she was very good in it. It was she was unrecognisable beneath those prosthetics.
Yes, of the sort of modern era, she's kind of the trailblazer for it. And obviously in recent years we've seen that with Gary Oldman with the Darkest Hour as well. But I'm really impressed to see that Dune has actually started to emerge as something of a favourite. I'm waiting for this Best Picture announcement to come through, because it's going to be incredible for me if it does actually turn out to be Dune. But I wouldn't be shocked still to see if Power of the Dog takes it.
And is that the major one we're waiting for? We've already got things like Best Screenplay, Best Adapted Screenplay. Have they come and gone then? So it's really just Best Film we're waiting for now.
We are indeed. So, let me go through the list we've got here. So, Will Smith is Best Actor. Jane Campion, as you say, has won for Power of the Dog for Best Directing. Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell for No Time to Die for Best Original Song. We have Summer of Soul for Best Documentary. We have Editing Goes to Dune. We have Hans Zimmer for Dune for Best Original Score. We have Sean Heder for Coda for Best Adapted Screenplay. We have Ken Branagh for Best Original Screenplay. Sir Ken taking it home for Belfast. We have Jenny Beavan winning Best Costume for Cruella. Live action short. Riz Ahmed, sorry. Riz Ahmed. In a great outfit, by the way, Riz Ahmed. Incredible purple suit. Won Best Live action short for The Long Goodbye. And Drive My Car took home Best International Feature.
Now I'm trying to keep an eye on things on this one. A film, a category that's not been around for that long is Best Animated Film. Did you tell us who'd won that? So I may have missed that because I'm trying to keep an eye across when the announcement comes through.
Oh, I completely forgot that one, didn't I? Because, of course, Encanto won it. I will say as well, Encanto has had quite a decent presence at the Oscars tonight because it's had the benefit of not one but two full-blown musical performances. The first one being the film it was actually nominated for. And then, for reasons they've not quite managed to justify or explain yet, a second bonus performance of a song that isn't nominated that just so happens to be We Don't Talk About Bruno, and got brilliantly introed, incidentally, by John Leguizamo, who of course plays Bruno in the movie. I'm
most curious about this time around is, of course, there was, worries that the audience was dipping. There was worries about going over long. They've reduced it further, the speech time to, I think, 45 seconds. And while I'm not in any way taking sides in the row between Will Smith and Chris Rock, although I kind of think, Chris Smith was a little out of line, to put it mildly, they could not buy this kind of publicity, could they? Particularly with the ending, the resolution that Will Smith got his Oscar.
But this is it. The Will Smith story has ensured now that the Oscars next year will be watched. If something like this can happen. And the problem is, prior to this, the actual ceremony itself had been interesting as hell. It had been, because it was a fascinating, there was just this fascinating confluence of these really patronizing elements. The hosts, for instance, like we said earlier about it being the second and third female African-American hosts, that is in 94 years, and that's on the back of, Whoopi Goldberg having done it decades ago. But also, you look at the choice of Amy Schumer to co-host, for instance. Amy Schumer is the star of 3 movies.
Including the rather badly reviewed Trainwreck was one, I think, wasn't it?
Well, Trainwreck was quite well reviewed.
Okay.
It was the other two that tanked. Trainwreck actually made bank. It was the two that came since, one of which was deeply problematic, called I Feel Pretty, and another was just unfunny. And she's just very much a sort of yesterday star. You then get to other elements like the fan favourite poll, which just feels like a redressing of the Outstanding Contribution to Popular Cinema Award that they were banding around a few years previous, you remember us talking about. And I think, was it 3 years ago, 2019, 2018, 2019, I think we were talking about that, which was basically a popcorn award. We now have that, and as a result, we got to see things like Mini Martyr and Army of the Dead featured at the Oscars, which I never thought would happen.
Okay, we're going to keep in touch, Ray. The minute the announcement comes through, in 15 minutes time, maybe we'll catch up with you again, if that's okay, and we'll get the winner of the best film for this year. Of course, it's the best film released in 2021, although it's 2022, of course. Van Connor, for the moment, huge thanks, matey. An Oscar ceremony unlike any other, and Van was our man keeping his eye across it for us on talkSPORT and talkRADIO. Coming up, 10 things you might never have even guessed about the Oscars. Some you may know, but if you do, keep it yourselves. Courtesy of me, Paul Ross and Sam Stevens. Will be live till 5 for the moment, Van Connor. That's a wrap.